There are no special libraries to add with fetch, as we saw with jQuery and Axios, because this is JavaScript at the very core. So let's go ahead and add this one in as well. So we've got another case, and this time we need to hook up, just as we did with Axios, fetch. So if the user selects fetch, then we're going to go AJAX+API and still passing in the URL. And now let's go down here and let's build out that function. Or we can copy one of the earlier ones that we did. How about we copy Axios, because Axios is promise-based as well. So use it as our basic template. So let me straighten this up, clean it up a little bit. So with Ajax fetch, we're doing AJAX+API. So the method is obviously not going to be Axios, it's going to be fetch. So let's get rid of some of this, or we'll type it, we'll get rid of it after. So fetch, specify the URL, and this is promise based as well, so that's where we've got the then. And function, so this is going to be that first initial response that we retrieve back. So what's happening here is it's doing fetch, going to the URL. When it retrieves something happens in that URL, it retrieves some information, it initiates the next promise, and that's fetching the response data. And it's got a function within it where we can do return and we can do response, and it's got a built-in method for JSON. So that's what we ultimately want. We want it returned back as JSON data. There's also a catch. So before we complete it, it's always a good idea to catch any errors, and we should add that into the other ones as well. So just call it function and grab the error. And in this case, we're going to be returning back, and let's use our output. We'll pass in that error information, and we need to have some values here for the response. And let's do fetch failed. So that's our customized response. So over here is if there's no problems, then we go ahead and we do a function. And we can call this response as well. We could call it data to be different if we wanted to. And here what we're doing is we're returning our output. And this time, because we've got our content within JSON format, we can return it as a response. And I'm going to mimic the 200 because we know that this was okay. And this is fetch Ajax. So I think we are ready to try that out. And of course, we need to get rid of that part there. So let's do a quick cleanup of the code, save it, and open up our browser. And we'll see if fetch works now. So go down to fetch, make the request. We see that we've got the data, Ajax fetch. We're able to retrieve back the data. So everything looks the same. So we can go to JavaScript. The data is the same. jQuery, the data is the same. Axios, the data is the same. So within fetch, we've got our response status is over here. It's contained within this main response object. And because we're taking response, we're turning it into JSON, so we're doing a little bit of a trick over here. And normally you wouldn't be returning back the status. If you are checking the status to make sure it's 200, you would do that over here. So this is where you would check status and take some type of action depending on what the status is. So that's the difference over there. And we could potentially pass it through, but it's going to add additional coding. So we're just going to keep it as is because normally you wouldn't be outputting that status value anyway. So go ahead and try this out for yourself. Add in fetch into our dropdown and get that working. And next, we're going to be adding in post. So our application is getting there. We've got all of the get requests hooked up. And the post ones are going to be a little bit more complex, but we're going to make it work. So that's coming up in the next lesson.